Good evening, and welcome to the commencement ceremony for the International Community School Class of 2026. I'm honored to be speaking in front of you today. Over the past few weeks, I've given speeches both at the teacher luncheon and the Moving Up Assembly, and somehow I cried during both of them, so it was pretty embarrassing crying in front of the whole school, so just bear with me if I cry tonight. Tonight is more than a ceremony. It's years of early mornings, late nights, and small moments that quietly shaped who we've become. Behind every cap and gown is a story, built from determination, laughter, setbacks, memories that will last us a lifetime. For many of us, these stories were written side by side. We've watched each other grow up, celebrated each other's wins, and even plotted revenge against our teachers that were fun to talk about even though they never actually happened. The point is, we didn't get here alone. Our parents worried about us more than we'll ever know, and our teachers believed in us in days where we didn't even believe in ourselves. And most importantly, our friends became our family. Tonight, we celebrate not only a graduating class, but also a community that stood beside us each and every step of the way. As we gather to celebrate this milestone, please join me in welcoming our national anthem singer, Aditya Venkat, and please rise for the national anthem.
Ask the front row to slide over so they're not, so they're offset.
Yeah.
True to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Aditya, Rithik, and the ICS band under the direction of Ms. Atchison for your contribution to this important milestone. Before we begin, I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement for this beautiful place. The University of Washington acknowledges the Coast Salish peoples of this land, the land that touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. Our first speaker today is our superintendent, Dr. John Holdman. Let's give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, family, friends, staff, board members. Please join me in congratulating the class of 2026. Graduation is a unique milestone. It gives us the opportunity to celebrate achievements while also recognizing the growth that made those achievements possible. As a member of ICS, you have a unique mascot. Your mascot is the Phoenix. The Phoenix is one of the most enduring symbols in history across cultures and generations. It represents renewal, transformation, and the ability to emerge stronger through change. Graduates, that symbolism is especially fitting right now. None of you are the same person you were when you first arrived at ICS. Through every class, project, discussion, challenge, success, friendship, and setback, you have grown. You have gained knowledge, you've developed perspective, and learned to see the world in more complex and meaningful ways. As graduates of ICS, you have learned that the world is larger and more connected than any one classroom, any one community, or any one perspective. You have been challenged to understand different viewpoints, engage with complex ideas, and recognize that learning does not end simply with graduation. That lesson will serve you well. The world you are entering will continue to change. New opportunities will emerge, new challenges will arise. The ability to think critically, consider different perspectives, and continue learning throughout your life will be amongst your greatest strengths. In many ways, that is the enduring lesson of the Phoenix. Growth, it's not a destination. It is a continuous process of learning, adapting, and becoming. Each new experience offers an opportunity to gain perspective and meet future with curiosity and with confidence. As you leave ICS, each of you will follow a unique path. While none of us can predict exactly where that journey will lead, we can be confident that the curiosity, resilience, and intellectual courage you have developed here will help you navigate whatever comes next. Continue to ask questions, continue to seek understanding, continue to engage thoughtfully with a world that is larger, more connected, and more complex than any one perspective can ever fully explain. Congratulations, International Community School Class of 2026. Go forward with confidence, pursue what aspirations you have, and continue to embody the very best of what it means to be a graduate of the Lake Washington School District and the International Community School. Congratulations. Our next speaker will be Board President Lisa Guthrie.
Good afternoon. Speaking on behalf of the Lake Washington School District Board of Directors, I want to congratulate the ICS Class of 2026. To the families, friends, and educators in this room, your love and dedication made this day possible. Thank you. Graduates, we've gathered to honor the hard work and achievements that have brought you to this day. You may have arrived here feeling polished, confident, ready for what comes next, as well you should. You may also be feeling uncertain, apprehensive, less than perfect. Today we're celebrating you, each and every one of you. You've earned it. And what a moment to be graduating, just a few weeks before America turns 250. A milestone for a country that, by its own founding ideals, has always been striving, not to be perfect, but to become a little more perfect. As poet Amanda Gorman wrote, we are far from polished, far from pristine. But that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge a union with purpose. That's your invitation too. Not to be perfectly polished, but to be purposeful. Not to wait for your future to arrive fully formed, but to forge it. Class of 2026, the board is deeply proud of you, each and every one of you. Now go forge your future with purpose. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Holman and Ms. Guthrie, for your words today. Good afternoon, family, friends, faculty, and especially the class of 2026. My name is Jacob Hendrickson. I'm honored to be the principal of the International Community School. We have several distinguished guests up here. You've seen some of them already. Lisa Guthrie and Lindsay Yoakum are representing the Lake Washington School District Board of Directors. Matt Gillingham, John Holman, Matt Livingston, Pablo Ortega, and Jennifer Rose are representing our district office leadership. Please extend them a warm welcome tonight. Class of 2026, it's been quite a journey over the last 7 years at ICS. You've not been alone on this adventure. Many of the challenges you've faced so far in life have been guided and supported by quite the entourage. Your parents and other important adults in your life have been your greatest champions, cheerleaders, and advocates along the way. Let's take a moment to recognize their unwavering support they have provided you. At this point, I'd like the faculty and staff to stand and face the graduates. This faculty has spent the last 7 years preparing you for the next phase in your life. They've taught you to effectively communicate, think, and approach problems creatively. At the same time, they've supported your professional development, which has strengthened your character and decision-making skills. They've accomplished this inside and outside of the classrooms as their roles as teachers, counselors, administrators, club advisors, and support staff at ICS. Please join me in expressing a huge amount of gratitude for our faculty and staff at ICS. Yeah. Please be seated. I had the privilege of spending Focus Week with the class of 2026 at the end of May. I had an amazing time watching them engage with each other in meaningful ways in the Olympic Peninsula. It was also great to get to know your parents, who made this trip possible as chaperones. While I could spend the next 5 minutes talking about our time together on this excursion, it was a trip that I took to the Olympic National Park with my son in March that will be the focus of my remarks. I had been on the Focus Week trip with the students in the class of 2024 to the Olympic Peninsula and wanted to explore something new that I hadn't seen yet. So we decided to see Rialto Beach. After a 2-hour drive from Port Angeles, we meandered from the parking lot up a small hill to see the beach. When I stepped over the ridge, I was immediately struck by the scale and beauty of this amazing place. The windswept ocean, the vertical stacks that form small islands, and the remnants of gigantic trees that made their journey down the Quileute River to be deposited on the beach were overwhelming. While I stood there mesmerized by this impressive place, my son and dog started to play near the water's edge. My eyes initially focused on the stacks that formed islands and the huge, massive piles of driftwood that littered the entire beach for about 10 to 15 minutes. Later, I noticed my son throwing and skipping rocks into the surf. I spent the next 5 minutes focusing on finding the perfect flat and round rocks for my son to throw. I collected batches of 5 to 8 rocks and judiciously delivered them to him to throw. During my second or third rock hunt, I finally recognized the shoreline was not just covered with black and brown rocks, but a variety of other colors. I had never seen a beach before that had purple, blue, yellow, orange, and even green rocks that formed the coastline. When they were wet from the rain or close to the water, their colors became more vibrant as they glistened in the sunlight. My speech this afternoon is not about my father and son trip this past spring, but something more relevant to your class as you prepare for the next stages of your life. We live in a world driven by social media, which encourages us to treat our experiences if we're driving through a fast food chain pickup window where you look at the menu, order food, pick it up, and leave. The transaction takes 2 to 3 minutes in totality with little thought and consideration involved. I find myself guilty of this when I quickly snap photos on my phone with the purpose of probably posting them to Instagram without really taking time to appreciate the moment. Moreover, on that Saturday morning at Rialto Beach, I was guilty of not taking the time to appreciate the small details. I was missing such an important part of the larger tapestry. Class of 2026, small details matter. If you don't take the time and carefully look, you will likely miss them. You are all moving on from a school with one hallway, to an environment that may be significantly different. It may be a mammoth university of 40,000 students with classrooms of 700 students taught by a graduate assistant, a small liberal arts college, or completely a new environment somewhere outside Washington State. Each of these changes offers you chances to expand your awareness and look for new details. As you head off to the next stage in your life, I ask you to consider a slightly different view of FOMO. I'm not encouraging you to worry about the party, concert, school festival, or basketball game that you may have missed that was posted to social media. But instead, a fear of missing a small detail that may make a huge difference in your life or even someone else's. Missed details equate to missed opportunities. Appreciating an element of a peer's perspective that is unique or maybe contradicts your own thinking. Noticing a fellow student at a social event that appears to be alone or isolated. Investigating a new part of your community that is off the beaten path. Recognizing a subtle change, like a haircut or new outfit of a coworker or friend. Or even experimenting with new ingredients in your favorite dish. Soon-to-be graduates, I ask you to lean into the subtleties and minutiae of your lives. You will not be disappointed. Who knows what small nugget you might unearth that changes something significantly in your life or others. Congratulations, class of 2026. You have earned this moment. I have the honor of introducing our first student speaker, which is Juri Azaz. Let's welcome Juri to the stage.
Good afternoon, faculty, families, friends, and most importantly, the class of 2026. When people look back on high school, they usually point to the big moments, the milestones, college decisions, big trips, competitions, graduation, the moments that we take photos of and capture because they feel monumental in our lives. And those moments do matter. But as I reflect on the experiences that shaped our class's time here at ICS, the smaller moments are the ones that stick out. The moments that might never make it onto a yearbook page, but somehow became the memories we carry with us the longest. A couple months ago, in our literature class, we were in the middle of our March Madness poetry competition. After weeks of narrowing down the bracket, we broke into groups and were assigned a poem to defend. The winning poems would make it into the final four of the competition. One by one, people got up at the podium, overanalyzing lines that were probably never meant to be overanalyzed. I can still see Bobby turning bright red at the stand, trying not to lose it, Ginny being absolutely relentless, refuting all of Dennis's points, Judah and Rafa somehow turning debate and poetry analysis into a competitive sport. Even now, looking back on these memories, it brings a smile to my face. Everyone in the room lost it. The room kept erupting in laughter as people stumbled through their points, and by the end, it barely even felt like an assignment anymore. But what I remember most wasn't anything anyone said. It was just how normal it felt. Of course, this is what we sound like when we're together, just a room full of noise that somehow works. People talking over each other, laughing mid-sentence, finishing each other's thoughts without even trying. That's what I've realized about ICS. Nothing here ever feels like it's happening in isolation. Somewhere along the way, coming to school stopped feeling like individual experiences happening side by side. It started feeling like a shared one. At a school this small, you don't really stay strangers for long. You end up knowing people in a way that sneaks up on you. And slowly, without noticing, your life begins to organize itself around other people. Without thinking about it, I know exactly who to go for homework help, who to go to for deeper conversations, and who to go to get through the chaos of running clubs together. In our humanities classes, we've read books like In the Time of the Butterflies and The Things They've Carried. What makes these books different is that they aren't told as one straightforward story. Instead, they're made up of smaller stories, different moments, different perspectives, different experiences that can almost stand on their own. As you're reading, it can feel like you're moving on from one story to the next, but eventually you realize they aren't separate at all. Every story adds context to another. Characters overlap, stories begin to blur together. And what first seemed like a collection of individual stories slowly reveals itself to be one larger story. And I think that's what it's been like here. Every person in this room has lived a different version of these years. But when I look out now, I don't see 31 separate stories. I see one story told through 31 different people. And I think it's only really hitting now that this is all becoming a memory. The people we once watched and thought were so far ahead are gone from this version of the school. And somehow, without noticing, that became us. We're the ones at the end of it now. I still can see the eager sixth graders who once walked into the school, sitting on the floor of the Lyceum during assemblies and bonding with camp counselors. They eventually went on to become camp counselors themselves, and throughout the year got to lead tons of assemblies and became the ones younger students looked up to on stage. There's always been this quiet expectation as an ICS student, to be driven, to be involved, to be a role model. There's a competitiveness that comes with that. Everyone pushing, everyone trying to do their best, everyone aware of what everyone else is doing. But I think what's different about us is it never stayed just that. We didn't just compete with each other, we built something underneath it. A kind of support where competition never replaced care. People helped each other through assignments, checked in before tests, practiced speeches, were shoulders for their friends to lean on, and sometimes explained things over and over again until they finally made sense. As I look out at our class of 31 people, I don't just recognize everyone. I know everyone. I know the people who've been sitting beside me in these classrooms for years. I know the people who I've stayed up late studying with. I know the unlikely friends that I've made, the people I've traveled with, laughed with, and rushed to finish final projects with. I also know what each person's go-to lunch spot is and what their strongest subject is at school, which feels normal for us, but when you step back and think about it, is actually really special and rare. And I think that's what I'll carry most with me from ICS. Not just the memories, but the people behind them, the relationships we've built, the way we show up for one another, the reminder that life is always richer when we let people in. Before I end, I want to leave you with one final thought. There's a quote that says, a Spanish quote actually, mientras uno está vivo, uno debía amar lo más que puede. While one is alive, one should love as much as possible. I know Profe Brandy's probably grading my pronunciation in his head right now. I hope I did it well, Profe. This quote comes from someone that I consider to be one of the greatest philosophers of our generation, Puerto Rican rap artist Bad Bunny. In a world that feels so divided, where it's easy to retreat into our own corner and only listen to people who think exactly like we do, I hope we choose something different. I hope we stay curious about one another. I hope we continue building the kinds of communities where people feel like they belong. I hope we keep reaching across our differences instead of away from them. And most of all, I hope we love generously. Not just to the people who are easy to love, not just to the people who agree with us, but the people who challenge us, who change us, and who help us grow. Because if ICS has taught me anything, it's that some of the most meaningful relationships in our lives can come from the people that we least expected. And the world could use a little bit more of that. To the class of 2026, congratulations to everyone. I'm so thankful for the community we've built over the years and the opportunity to be a part of this. I'm so incredibly proud to call myself an ICS student. I can't wait to see what you all accomplish. Know that I will always be cheering you on, whether from afar or near. I hope we also take a moment to acknowledge the people who helped us get here, the people who supported us, encouraged us, and believed in us throughout those years. Whoever those people are for you, I hope you take a moment to acknowledge them today. For me, those people are my parents. Mama, Baba, thank you for your unwavering support and guidance. I wouldn't be here today without you. And the way you never stopped believing in me, especially when I struggled to believe in myself. I love you all deeply. Thank you. Next up, I have the honor of introducing someone who is more than just a classmate to me. He's a friend and someone I've leaned on, Rafa Suklan.
I've told this story before, but a story once told is never truly finished. I remember back in 6th grade, before the beginning of school, where we met at Perigo Park as a little introduction to the people that we were going to spend the next 7 years with. I remember looking around trying to find a familiar face, overhearing fragments of conversations I wasn't a part of yet. At some point, the parents made us divide into little circle groups so we could better introduce ourselves. We went around the circle one by one, each of us taking a turn to introduce our names and fulfilling whatever questions they asked us. There were a bunch of little icebreakers like this that we went through, but one in specific has stuck with me ever since. With an item that started with the first letter of your name, what are you bringing to the picnic? And as any self-respecting child who did not want to seem boring in front of the people he just met, I was not about to say rice and call it a day. I mean, I love apples, but that just doesn't start with R. Ravioli is not really my thing. Rambutan, I've never had it, but it's unique, and it's like a cultural thing from Indonesia that I think we eat a lot, but no. Rocks, I said. No laughs, just hesitant smiles, and the silence that follows when the room just doesn't know what to do with you. I was embarrassed. But looking back now, something small and profound had emerged from that moment alone. People always talk about the little memories that collectively build up our experience as a grade. The jokes that only we understand, the conversations that lasted longer than they should have, the moments that seemed insignificant at the time, but somehow became the stories we tell years later. Looking back, I realized that the memories that stay with us are rarely born from certainty. They come from taking a chance on something we couldn't predict. That moment has stayed with me because it was never really about the answer itself, and rather what it revealed about how we approach discomfort and uncertainty. Many of us joined or even made our own clubs. We hosted events, volunteered to help with those events, perform on stage, and discover talents, passions, and ambitions that we never knew we had. Like one of my classmates, Yahya Muhammad Abid, had said in a speech for Great Senator earlier this year, life has a strange way of rewarding those who are willing to lean into discomfort. To raise a hand when they aren't sure of the answer, to try something new without knowing the outcome, to risk embarrassment, rejection, or even failure in exchange for growth. I always think back to the summer before 10th grade, where a group of us went to Japan with Ms. Jackson. I remember the week before worrying about who I was going to talk to and if I was going to enjoy the trip at all, since I didn't know going on the trip that well. But the first day passed, and I was eating fish's whole beside Maya and Amelia at dinner. The second day passed, laughing with Vitter and Grant as I quickly rushed to take a 2-minute shower. The third day passed, and I just went through the most physically challenging obstacle in my entire life with Amy, Daniel, Elika, Bobby, Basaki, and Miss Amura. And then the 4th day, the 5th day, and finally the 6th day passed as I remember wiping my tears away because I wasn't ready to leave. The point is, none of those names would mean anything if I hadn't gone on that trip. Names that were almost strangers read on a list just a few days ago became the same names of the friends I still hold very dear to me. I hope that wherever life takes us next, we continue to embrace the unknown with the same courage that brought us here today. The opportunities that shape our lives rarely arrive when we feel ready for them. They arrive when we choose to take the chance anyway. As we prepare to step into the next chapter, I find myself looking back on the one we're leaving behind. I think about everything that filled those years between the classes, the 11:59 deadlines, the competitions, the trips, and the countless ordinary days in between. And when I ask myself what made those years manageable, what made them meaningful, and how I, Rafa Suklan, am somehow standing here today, the answer becomes just a little bit clearer. It wasn't the grades, it wasn't the projects, it was the people. I have never been so grateful to be surrounded by the brilliant and high-achieving minds of ICS students. It'll no longer be, hey, remember last weekend? It'll be, hey, remember back in high school. I hope to believe that once entering the school, you have changed in one way or another. Faces, names, and personalities I have seen and memorized among the years. Faces, names, and personalities that will continue to grow and accomplish things far greater than we have ever once imagined. I hope that the memories you have created in ICS stay as part of the unchangeable past of your youth. While these years may pass, the imprints may never will. Do not be afraid. Go beyond, fly high, be fearless, set your heart ablaze. Because it didn't matter what you brought to the picnic, it mattered that you showed up. Live like the phoenix in you has never risen before and burn brighter than the light you've ever lit for yourself. Stand proud, ICS class of 2026, and congratulations for completing another hell of a year. Thank you. I now have the utmost privilege of introducing the faculty speaker chosen by our class, Ms. Kim.
Thank you for doing this.
Good evening, graduates and families. I'm so happy and honored to be here with you today. Today is a day to celebrate all of your hard work and success. But before I talk about your future, I want to take a moment to reflect on what you have given me. Many people think that teachers do all the teaching, but the truth is that learning goes both ways. Over the years, I have had you from Algebra 1 to AP Statistics. Some of you are in my classroom for 1 year, and some of you stayed for 4 years. And throughout those years, you helped me grow. You challenged me with questions I had never considered. You shared ideas that opened new ways of thinking. A classroom is never built by a teacher alone. It is built by everyone in it. Thank you for creating a space filled with questions, laughter, effort, and growth. Thank you for helping me become a better person and teacher than we first met. As a math teacher, I have spent years talking about variables, equations, and functions. We often begin with something simple, like a linear function, a straight path that is predictable and clear. But life after graduation doesn't follow a straight path. Instead, it may look more like a polynomial with several turning points, or a piecewise function that changes direction when you least expect it. Actually, I learned this from my own journey. I studied archaeology and art history in Korea, and today I stand here as a math teacher in the United States. In mathematical terms, that was my turning point. It was the moment where the direction of my life changed in ways I could not have predicted. There will be times when your path feels clear, and there will be times when it feels uncertain or even confusing. In those moments, I hope you remember that your value is not defined by a test score, a college acceptance, a job title, or a single success or failure. What truly counts are the qualities I have already recognized in all of you. Your kindness, resilience, curiosity, and your willingness to challenge yourselves. These will matter more than anything else. When I was in high school, one of my teachers once told me something I've never forgotten. She said, if you have even one of these in your life, you'll be okay. A family member who loves you unconditionally. a true friend who supports you in good or bad times, or a teacher who believes you. If you have even one of those, your life will turn out well. Your families, friends, and teachers have been with you on this journey, and they will be with you in the future as well. No one succeeds alone. Behind every achievement, there is someone who offered encouragement, guidance, sacrifice, and support. As you begin next chapter, remember to thank those people. And whenever you can, be that person for someone else. Your future will include many challenges and mistakes. It will also include lots of joy, discovery, and growth. Embrace all of it. Keep learning, keep helping others, keep overcoming. Congratulations, class of 2026.
Well, how about those speeches? Let's give it up again for jury, Rafa and Miss Kim. Those were amazing. Well, now comes the ICS tradition of performance. And our class is coming up here, and they're going to be singing Count on Me by Bruno Mars. Let's go, class.
Tempo is we can count on 1, 2, 3, 5. That's the tempo. Ready? Okay. 1, 2, ready, go.
If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. And if you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. If you're tossing and you're turning and you just can't fall asleep, I'll sing a song beside you. And if you ever forget how much you really mean to me, every day I will remind you. Oh, we'll find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. You'll always have my shoulder when you cry. I'll never let go, never say goodbye. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You can count on me 'cause I can count on you.
All right, now it's time for what you've been waiting for. Dr. O'Donnell sends his regards today. He very much wishes he could be here, but is not feeling well. You see him on the program, and I'll speak on his behalf. On behalf of the ICS staff, an honor given to me by the Lake Washington School District, I certify that the students of the class of 2026 have met all the requirements established by the local authorities and the state of Washington, and from this point, graduates of International Community School. Congratulations. I would like to invite up to the stage our diploma readers today, which are Mr. Cameron Brandy and Miss Victoria Castaneda. We'll be reading our names and bios this evening. The first row can get ready.
Ready? Toby's most prized memory from ICS was the drawing board that Mix Crane had in their room, as it gave her and her friends the creative freedom for virtually whatever shenanigans they came up with. She's excited to be able to focus on product design, art from life, and filing taxes. Her favorite project was the 9th grade biology film. Editing the film and hearing her classmates laugh made all the work worth the effort. Her favorite quote is by Serge Tankian: "Pretending that we live doesn't make us alive." Please congratulate Toby Abdullahi.
As Yahya's time at ICS comes to a close, he looks back and is amazed by how much he's changed, yet stayed the same. He remembers one of his favorite experiences, going to Zion National Park for Focus Week, where he was able to strengthen the bonds with his friends. His favorite class was graphic production, and his favorite projects were the short film for creative writing, as well as the video for AP Physics. Please congratulate Yahya Abid.
Juri's favorite memories from high school are the small, everyday moments spent laughing with friends. Her favorite class was AP Environmental Science, where she enjoyed learning about the world around her and thinking about real-world solutions to environmental issues. Throughout her time at ICS, she built meaningful connections and learned to appreciate both the challenges and the joys of being part of a close-knit school community. Juri looks forward to studying political science on her path to becoming an immigration lawyer. Please congratulate Juri Azoz.
Michael's fondest memories will be those that are spending time with his classmates, grade hangouts, gift exchanges, and random classroom banter. As Michael moves on to develop new skills such as computer science, he continues to look forward to new and unexpected opportunities in life provided by ICS. He is grateful for his friends' unwavering care and support throughout, and is deeply honored by the respect others place in him. Guided by the music of Nujabes, Michael is constantly reminded of the simple yet joyful moments with others and to cherish every moment of life. Please congratulate Michael Bai.
A favorite memory of Rishi's is playing some of his favorite movie music with Miss Christensen and Miss Atchison, including highlights from Aladdin, Moana, Phantom of the Opera, and Never-Ending Story. A favorite project was with Yahya, Josh, and Justin in Miss Roberts' physics class, a video where they explained the physics of Minecraft that was both funny and cringe. He looks forward to merging electrical engineering with a music minor in college to produce cool creations. Rishi takes Miss Christensen's words to heart when she said once is luck, twice is skill. Please congratulate Rishi Bharathwaj.
Dennis' favorite memory at ICS was Focus Week during junior year, when he traveled to Zion National Park and spent the week hiking with his friends. One of his favorite classes was AP Physics in the 10th grade, where Ms. Roberts and his friends made the experience especially memorable. After graduation, he looks forward to seeing the success his classmates will achieve in their adult life. He tries to live by the motto, "You make your own reality." Please congratulate Dennis Chalar.
One of Shervon's favorite projects was working on 12th night for Miss Castañeda's class. He will never forget spending more time perfecting props rather than memorizing lines, only to forget most of them during the presentation. A similar experience occurred with his A-Push final, where he tried to connect the Vietnam War to Star Wars, but spent too much time practicing the lightsaber duel. Looking ahead, he's excited to travel and explore the world after graduation, but he will always appreciate the inside jokes and countless moments with friends that made ICS feel like home. Please congratulate Trevant Ducey.
One of Emiko's favorite memories at ICS was traveling to California for Focus Week and riding roller coasters. She looks back on this trip as a highlight of her time at ICS and truly captured the fun and friendships that were formed at the school. She especially enjoyed first-year chemistry, which helped her realize she wanted to pursue chemistry. After graduation, she looks forward to whatever the future holds, including collecting rare Owala water bottles. She is guided by Bob Marley's words, "Love the life you live the life you love." Please congratulate Emiko Fukutome.
Bobby has come to appreciate the close relationships she has been able to build with the people in her grade and loves the tight-knit community that she has fostered over her time at ICS. Bobby's favorite class was 10th grade environmental science with Mr. McFall because the learning had real-world applications. She looks forward to traveling and expanding her worldview after she graduates. Bobby hopes to embrace adversity and believes in the Jimmy Dean quote, "I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination." Please congratulate Bobby Hagerman.
One of Joshua's most beloved memories was being at Camp Phoenix in 9th grade, bonding with all the upperclassmen, watching Lego Ninjago and Minecraft videos in the cabin at night, and joining in the laughter and in-sync cheers whenever something awesome happened. He cherished his time in high school symphony ensemble in 9th grade because he enjoyed spending time in a room full of funny, kind students, playing the most mind-blowing pieces he could ever play in the music program. Joshua looks forward to spending more time with his friends and family before going to college. They're the most important people to him, and he's thankful that they've helped him to be where he is now. Please congratulate Joshua Ho.
Kiana remembers freshman year Camp Phoenix as one of her favorite ICS memories, especially sharing a cabin with the other girls and spending the nights talking together. She also enjoyed being part of the drama community and working on creative projects with others. One highlight was creating the short film Cloud 9 in creative writing, where she had fun filming and editing the project with her peers. Kiana appreciates the friendships she's made and the many opportunities ICS gave her to explore creative interests. After graduation, she looks forward to meeting new people while keeping ICS at heart, starting a rock band with friends, and embracing whatever experiences come next. Please congratulate Kiana Ho.
Jinyi's favorite memories at ICS are the Zodiac and Zion Focus Weeks and the Walk Japan trip. She enjoyed getting away from school worries, instead spending time in nature and connecting with others. After graduation, she is looking forward to gaining more independence and figuring out what she wants to do after college. Her favorite class project was making a short film with her classmates for the creative writing class in 11th grade. She had fun screenwriting, filming, and acting. Please congratulate Jinyi Ko.
Judah appreciates the small community at ICS, where he has enjoyed building strong bonds and friendships throughout his 7-year stay. He remembers the class periods in 10th grade physics, being confounded by torque and somehow struggling with kinematics, but still being carefree and by the grace of God passing the class. He is reminded by Cameron Winter that love will make you fit it in all in the car, meaning that love and connection will change you and push you forward. Please congratulate Judah Lee.
Yusuf's favorite memories of ICS was camp in 11th grade. He looks forward to continue learning in college and exploring his passions. One of his favorite quotes is, "Never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game." Babe Ruth. Please congratulate Yusuf Mansour.
Rithik is really interested in planes and leaving the atmosphere, so he will study aerospace engineering. His favorite memory at ICS was playing basketball with the upperclassmen at camp and winning the spring competition against the teachers. Hey. He enjoyed making videos for classes, and friends especially making movie trailers based on The Matrix and Oppenheimer. He always loved going to camp and doing activities as a grade and getting closer to them this year, especially because we were able to sing at the campfire. Please congratulate Rithik Mohan.
One of Alex's favorite memories from ICS was his junior year focus week with Ms. Jackson, spending time outdoors, practicing leadership skills, and bonding with friends made the experience especially meaningful. Alex is grateful for the classes that helped shape his interests, especially modern art with Mr. Rader, which sparked a deeper passion for art and architecture. He appreciated the balance of lectures and studio time in the class and considers it one of the best classes he has taken. Looking ahead, Alex is excited to begin a new journey in Utah, studying architecture while carrying lessons and friendships from ICS with him. Please congratulate Alex Asipkov.
Some of Lily's favorite moments at ICS involve traveling, from going hiking in Japan, driving a boat in the San Juan Islands, to riding roller coasters in LA. Lily has soaked up every moment. While she loves science, she hopes to keep writing, drawing, and pursue more creative endeavors. She hopes to keep discovering the wild while keeping memories of ICS tucked in her heart. Please congratulate Lily Pogue.
Vitter's favorite moments at ICS are finding community. He remembers preparing for campfire in senior year camp, unsure if it was going to rain right up until the end of dinner, being glad to see the dedication of his friends and helping it make it happen. Vitter will take the lessons he's learned from ICS about community to new places, contributing to projects that help create change. This mindset has already shaped him, like when he worked with Daniel and Rafa to use data analysis for a Future Business Leaders of America project in designing the electric car of the future. Please congratulate Vitter Prabhu.
As Rasha graduates, she looks forward to the endless adventures ahead, but some things will never change. She will always enjoy making art and watching films in her free time. One of her favorite memories of ICS was the humanities film projects, like the one about the Inferno. No matter where she ends up, she'll cherish the memories she's made at ICS. She looks forward to exploring the intersection between technology, art, and the mind. Please congratulate Rasha Rudaki.
Divya's favorite memory from her time at ICS was this year's Camp Phoenix, especially the warm campfire on the last night. She particularly enjoyed Dr. White's psychology class, as well as Mix Crane's graphic production class. She is grateful for the past 7 years with ICS's supportive community and faculty. After graduation, Divya is looking forward to spending time with her friends and family before she leaves for college. Please congratulate Divya Saint Badios.
Melody's time at ICS was defined by the unexpected. When she wasn't planning a rap battle in IS, she was going on adventures with people she never expected to be close friends with. She hopes to carry those experiences with her to college and looks forward to finding new ways to change the world, whether it's creating new building materials or making buildings for outer space. Melody will continue to live by Marilyn Monroe's words, "A smart girl knows her limits. A wise girl knows she has none." Please congratulate Melody Sakya.
As Shahar graduates, she looks forward to meeting new people while staying close with the friends she's made at ICS. One of her favorite memories is her sophomore year focus week on the Salish Sea, where the lack of phones allowed her to connect more deeply with many people in her grade. She is grateful for the small size of her class and the many great events throughout the years, helping her get to know each of the 30 amazing seniors graduating alongside her. When Shahar reflects on her journey through ICS, she thinks of Robert Duncan's words, "I've been where you most feared to be," and feels reassured knowing the challenges that once seemed intimidating are now behind her. Please congratulate Shahar Shapira.
One of Shino's favorite memories at ICS was the Mopop field trip during her senior year. It will always have a special place in her heart, as they all got to become little kids again, goofing off in the playground and exploring the museum. Shino particularly enjoyed her experience in creative writing class, where she discovered her love of poetry and her determination to write for her whole life. In the future, she looks forward to traveling to new places while also keeping in touch with her classmates from ICS, perhaps convincing them to join her adventures. My favorite quote is, "I make it a rule to go wherever I want to," by Porco Rosso. Please congratulate Shino Shimo Araiso.
Maya's favorite memories at ICS are of eating lunch with her friends and working with drama, especially when they had the opportunity to co-direct The Little Prince this year. A lover of storytelling, art, and various media, they look forward to being able to pursue art more directly in the future in college and out of it, and of living in a new environment and getting to meet new friends. They're grateful to their humanities and arts teachers for giving them the opportunity to explore more of their passion, especially in the creative writing and film studies classes they took, and hope to continue that interest in stories. Please congratulate Maya Skakun.
As Suniti graduates, she continues to look forward to meeting new people and exploring her passion for public health. During her time at ICS, some of Suniti's favorite memories include coming together during camp for the Senior Serenade and watching her classmates' performances of 12th Night in AP Lit. One of her favorite activities during her time at ICS was building a Rube Goldberg machine in AP Physics, where she enjoyed branching out and trying something new. Guided by the timeless wisdom of Henry David Thoreau, Suniti is reminded to go confidently in the direction of her dreams and live the life she has imagined. Please congratulate Suniti Srinivasan.
Rafa's most beloved moments at ICS were accompanied by the very community that made everything feel a little bit more alive. His favorite memories were brainstorming and executing his group's ideas for video projects. Between his 9th grade humanities trailer, Inferno Project, and Oppenheimer, he found joy in displaying his group's creative imagination and energetic collaboration. Spontaneity has always embodied Rafa's actions, and he cannot wait to continue to do the same thing in college. Please congratulate Rafa Suklin.
Amelia enjoys the connection being a student at ICS brings and the many opportunities to get to know people at this school. One memory is of last year's Focus Week, where they were able to bond with people over a shared experience and fun without worrying about anything else. They look forward to sleeping a lot and resting up now that they're finally graduating. Please congratulate Amelia Tibbles.
One of Molly's favorite memories from ICS was attending the Salish Sea Focus Week, where she got to experience doing things she'd never done before. In the future, she hopes to stay in touch with all her friends at ICS and is grateful to have had such a supportive community by her side throughout her time at ICS. Molly is looking forward to studying psychology further and is excited to start a new chapter in life. Please congratulate Molly Toth.
Aditya's favorite memory from his 7 years at ICS was the junior year Focus Week trip, traveling to Six Flags, Disneyland, and Universal Studios. Shout out to Miss Ann. The joy of exploring everything with his friends, getting over his fear of roller coasters, building a lightsaber, and late night poker made the trip truly unforgettable. What Aditya loves most about this senior class is how everyone can joke around and care for one another while never offending anyone. That's what a true group of friends looks like. Being in the senior class has inspired his favorite quote, "There's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for," Samwise Gamgee. After graduating today, Aditya will prepare to walk on to a D1 football team in his sophomore year of college. Please congratulate Aditya Venkat.
Among Amy's favorite memories at ICS is spending time after school with her friends in the parking lot and having vulnerable, real conversations that allowed her to appreciate the little things and cherish her friendships. In school, she enjoyed Mr. Plank's 10th grade humanities class, for it introduced her to philosophy, a topic that Amy would like to pursue in the future. After graduation, Amy wants to study abroad and make lifelong friends and connections in college. Amy recalls the words of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, The Little Prince. It is the time you have wasted for your rose that makes your rose so important, reminding her that every step has a purpose and that her efforts are building toward a future she can truly be proud of. Please congratulate Amy Wang Araya Tawanich.
Curious, empathetic, and passionate, Daniel appreciates the supportive environment he found at ICS. From traveling to Japan with classmates over the summer of 9th grade to exploring Anaheim for FBLA Nationals, Daniel's favorite memories of ICS are centered around what makes it truly special, the people. He is grateful to have analyzed films, recorded podcasts, and found a family at ICS, whether in baking cookies, preparing last-minute FBLA presentations, or planning trips together. In college, he looks forward to finding new connections and passions, continuing to seize the day with new friends while staying connected with ICS. Please congratulate Daniel Zhang.
Thank you, Ms. Castaneda and Mr. Brandy. I'd like to invite up Vitter and Daniel. While they're coming up, just want to talk about exit plans after the ceremony here. The graduates are going to be exiting up the staircase over here, and they're going to be going up to the concourse. That's where you can reunite with them. We'll only have a few minutes in that space, and we need to get ready for Lake Washington High School. So that's the meetup point. Then head up outside. There's great spots to take pictures. And we're going to hand things over to our class presidents. Come on up.
ICS class of 2026, it has been an absolute honor to serve as your class co-presidents.
Before you head out today, we'd like to request you to take a brief minute to fill out the exit survey that we've sent in the class WhatsApp.
The exit survey?
Yeah, for data collection. It's only 3 free response questions.
But we're at graduation.
It's always a good time for a Microsoft form.
So you're serious right now?
Daniel, I've never been more serious in my life.
He's joking.
Yeah, I'm joking.
So we might not have an exit survey yet, but we don't need a form to know what makes our class special.
Graduates, please rise. And join us in moving your tassels from right
to left. Congratulations, class of 2026.